we're going to start off by welcoming Colleen Leonard. Colleen, thanks for joining us today.
Glad to be here. Thank you.
So, Colleen, you are going to provide some of our new coaches that are in our online school with some insight into your experience having gone through Move Forward or the Hero's Journey. Are you ready for that?
Yeah.
So I've asked Colleen, who's been with us for a couple years now, to really take us through each stage and give us some color as it relates to her experience within each of those stages so that we can better grasp what someone might be thinking or going through as we're looking at this infographic. So I'm going to basically hand this off to Colleen, and she's going to go through each stage, giving you her story, highlighting things that she's thinking about when she thinks of that stage, as well as connecting the milestones as she goes along. And I think it'll be a pretty interesting story. So without further ado, let's get Colleen in the batter's box. Colleen, let's go. Let's start. Move forward and bring us back to those memories that you have of your current state before you even knew us and before you took the steps to transform into who you are today.
Well, before I started in your program, I was not a very active person per se as far as strength went. I would get regularly exercise by walking, and I was active as far as out and about, just doing everyday errands and in my job. I am a nurse, so I do get a lot of walking to and from and standing all day doing patient care. And other than that, I was not really like cardio exercise material or any such thing like that. I did experience a time where my back did start to give me trouble. It seems like maybe back in 2010 might have been that time. My lower back would be aching, not every day, but off and on, kind of frequently. That might have been, looking back, that might have been my warning sign. And I would just medicate at that time with Tylenol for that, to help with that and just get me through the day. Other than that, I didn't think anything of that. I was still able to function and do my job and do what I needed to do. As the years progressed, that pain became a little bit more frequent. I started to have maybe sciatic type pain as well. Still didn't really think anything of it. And we did go on vacation one year in 2016 to Cape Cod, and that was about 3 or 4 hours ride away. We made it there fine. The day we had to come back home, however, my back did act up, and I did have to take Tylenol for that before we even left Cape Cod. But I knew that the ride home for 4 hours was not a good mix for that scenario. And I knew traffic wasn't all that well either, as far as sitting in traffic trying to get out of there. So we decided to just drive straight through to home without stopping. In hindsight, it was not the best idea. But by the time I got home, I started to feel lower back pain that I've not felt before. I did have difficulty with walking, definitely difficulty with sitting. And that was on a Friday night. And by Sunday of that weekend, I did actually herniate my disc in my lower back. So that was my initial injury that brought me to having to be disabled from work for 3 months. And I wasn't able to really do anything except I had to take pain med and steroids and anti-inflammatory to help with the initial injury. And then I was in physical therapy for maybe, I think a total of 3 months, but I couldn't start it right away because of the inflammation.
So your current state, I mean, you're painting such a bleak, cloudy picture that it's really interesting just to kind of hear the depth of discomfort and pain and really lack of life, quite frankly, that you had. I mean, walking around, it sounds like your body was very fragile. Anything probably could have really just been a problem. And obviously, your quality of life was poor.
Right.
I mean, that's a perfect setup for a current state, right?
Right.
We've got so now that everyone has an idea of like where you were, sort of, transition to maybe trying to remember a call to action. Like what inspired you to, other than, you know, I think what you've described is enough, but there must have been a call to action. Describe that.
Well, my call to action was, and actually a year later, I did make it back to work after physical therapy. I did get back on my feet. I was able to function, but I did have to lessen my hours per week at work in order to start to take care of myself, such as physical therapy appointments, and I did start to do yoga to help with my back and flexibility. So I made it another year into 2017 doing that. But then again, in the fall of 2017, I met with more back issue, pain again, having to go see the spine doctor, having to get on steroids again. And the thing that was not consistent was after I got out of PT, I did not maintain any of what I was taught to do. No one really physically told me that I had to continue to do something regularly to stay out of trouble. I unfortunately found that out myself the hard way. So that was fall in 2017. I had to do another round of PT, but that round was actually 7 months long. And it was 2 to 3 days a week, and it was before work every day that I would have those appointments. Month 5 of doing that, in every PT appointment I went to, I would feel better. And month 5, I finally got to a point in my own mind that something's got to give as far as getting out of PT. I can't be doing that all the time, but I needed to do something regularly in my life in order to maintain what improvements PT did for me. So I was looking for a way out of physical therapy, and I went to the Women's Expo with my mom that early spring, and that's where I met Corey. And he was different than just a regular gym. And me, I've never really stepped foot into a gym, so I did have some reluctance at first. But safety at that point was in my mind, and I definitely needed to be shown how to do things correctly in order to protect myself. So I did meet Corey, and I set up a time to let him do a movement screen on me. And that was my first foot into the facility, and that my first foot to the start to change my life over. But the sad reality was I discovered how weak I really was when I couldn't move myself rolling over on a floor.
Right. So you've kind of combined the call to action and meeting your coach or mentor in myself. I know there are others that are impacting your life currently, but at that point, really the call to action just came to you almost like not even really looking for it. You just happened to stumble across, in that situation at an expo where we set up a little booth, and just whatever it was caught your attention for some odd reason, whatever reason that may have been. So I look at those types of things as, we're in people's lives for a reason, right? And something happened, something pulled you towards, our philosophy or towards what we were doing. And that really was the call to action, wasn't it? Is that you were able to kind of connect the dots a little bit. You ended up, interacting with me. You kind of liked what we were talking about in terms of safety and, spine health and stuff that we do. And yeah, so we kind of got through the current state. We got through the call to action. We started getting into the meet your coach and mentor, and then we started to kind of talk about. Colleen started talking about embracing the system. So with that, she's already talked a little bit about a movement screen. She's kind of getting into talking about milestones here, but is there anything else, that you want to kind of flush out with embracing the system as kind of like a discussion point?
Well, my realization when I realized, like, I was having a trouble to just sit and like watch TV or a movie, or just get in the car to go for a ride somewhere or to travel. And that's what I enjoyed in my life. And I could not do those things at that moment. And I just remember looking out my window in the living room just one day, and this is before, I was mid upper 30s, which I looked at myself as still young. And I wasn't accepting that, and I didn't want to accept that. And that was my own really call to action of that I need to be the one to do something here. My own motivation, though, was not enough. So I was not accomplishing doing yoga from the TV at home by myself or any such thing like that. So I feel like the outside motivation is what sparked my interest to be able to get me on the right path, as well as teaching me the right way to do things and be safe to myself.
Cool. And the system that we introduced must have seemed logical in your mind?
Well, it did. Focusing on the core strength. I mean, like I said, I was never really an active person. So for me to kind of have a sense of exercise and proper way to approach, I was kind of not with that knowledge at first. Looking back and how I've actually done that, yes, it totally makes sense.
Right. And
to me now.
Right. And at that moment, coming to us from an expo, I believe we did, and what you do now is small group personal training, but we didn't start you in small group personal training. We started you in personal training, didn't we?
We might have done some one-on-one, but when I officially started, I jumped into the small groups.
But initially, I think we did some one-on-ones just to make sure you were all set.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then at what point did you experience like crossing the threshold and just like feeling like, okay, I feel better. I want, I am convinced that this is going to help me. Do you kind of recall when that may have happened?
Yeah. Well, from the movement screen and me then jumping into the program, I feel like it was really quick with how I started to notice things. And it might have been within the first month. I just was picking up on a lot of different small improvements. And the crossing the threshold part was, I don't know, I think I just was starting to feel better. And I was learning that I needed to strengthen my core, and I was learning the proper way to do that. And I think when my posture was an issue for a while, but once we were focusing on that and I was seeing improvements even with that, I think that was my crossing the threshold point for that I definitely was improving and that it was working.
Very cool. And that follows in line with all the milestones as you go through milestone number 1 with the active straight leg raise, milestone 2 with the balance and the reflexive core stability, milestone 3 with the toe touch, and all of that is really focused on that core zone. And then when you get into milestone 4 with the posture, I recall spending quite a bit of time with you on that. And as we kind of continue on with the stages here, and we face milestones and accept challenges, meet allies and confront villains, this whole growth strategy of really milestone to milestone kind of highlight some of the things that you remember most about the different milestones, any struggles you had, anything that was super easy for you, anything that might come to your mind.
I never really I skipped over the green shading there. I didn't have issue with squatting or ankle movement or anything like that. It was mainly the core and posture, balance and toe touch, like all of that. When I came in, I was having issues with. I was weak. I had muscle weakness. I left side greater than right side. Like, once I started to see quick improvements in all of those, I knew that, that I was in the right place.
Did it motivate you to have different, like with these milestones, it gave you focus, it gave you purpose. Was it motivating to get through it onto a next milestone? Like what motivated you?
Well, the chart did motivate me because I would periodically just look over at it and just be able to look where I came from and then where I currently was, and then possibly keep asking myself, am I going to be able to go further? And that system there and that mindset of your own personal being, I think it does set the stage for good motivation,
Very cool.
as
And
well
then
as dedication to the program.
very cool. And then as you continue to transition, you mentioned that you pretty much slid right through the movement zone, which are the ankles, the squatting, the loaded squat. Can you kind of bring up kind of the, what crawling is meant to you, how you've been motivated to, increase your crawl duration, and then get into maybe talking about kettlebell skills and, stuff like that.
Crawling was hard at first. I maybe did it 30 seconds to a minute. Way back when. That's when I realized that's a very hard movement, and you definitely do need your core strength for that. As I progressed through that was the motivation again to just continue to keep going. And when I had a new realization of how far I had come to that point, I really just was wondering, like, where am I going to end up going? The
And the
coaching
answer,
definitely.
yeah, and the answer to that on the crawls that, you went from a 30-second crawl to your PR now is what?
20 minutes.
Right, just an amazing accomplishment. And so obviously there's a body transformation just with crawling itself, but also talk about kettlebell skills.
Kettlebell skills, single arm kettlebell skills. They did come pretty easy. I started out with a lower weight, and we did that, with what I could handle, but also to protect my back. That blue phase there, I was in for a while for safety reasons. Also, my back, looking back, I think it was responding to what I was actually training it to start to do. There's things that I would progress to do, and then there'd be times after I did that I'd have to set back because my back would just I had periods where it would be tweaked. I'd have tweaks here and there with anything new that I was doing. But we had to listen to that, and I had to learn to listen to my body versus ignore that. And I was also verbal with my coach, Coach Zach Feeney. He's been a great support system through this whole progression for me. And I kept in contact with him as far as how I'm feeling day to day for each session. And he always had my safety in mind. So we would either give it a go up to something new or just stay where we're at. And that is where as far as a villain goes, I would kind of be impatient, I think, at that time. More impatient with myself and maybe frustrated with myself and my body, because now I've seen where I was, where I'm going, and where I want to go. My body at that time sometimes wouldn't let me go. So Zach had to help me, get through those emotions at that point and just accept them and let my body heal and do what it's going to do, gradually. So I learned each of those kettlebell skills. I just had to be patient with them. And the swing was my first one that I did. And that was a fun movement, but it was definitely challenging for the low back. But we did it.
Yeah, and you can flesh out a bunch of villains within that whole discussion, and you've really learned to manage them through the
Mm-hmm.
through this journey. Because I know you had quite a few setbacks, but like I said, you were able to develop strategies which enabled you to pass those milestones because you have gone beyond milestone 11, you've gone beyond milestone 12. Take us into kind of the next little zone, which is performance.
Um,
That's
as
where you
far
got
as
into.
how I
Yeah,
feel,
well,
how my
that's where you got into the milestone of double bell skills, as well as a higher level crawl, or more duration rather, 7.5 minute duration, and then continuing to see body composition change. Just kind of describe those milestones in that zone.
those moments. I definitely felt different. I definitely felt stronger and was noticing with anything that I did during a workout that I did have a stronger core at that point. Um, I kept setting goals for myself as far as the crawl. The crawl, I seem to embrace that. A lot of people don't really like doing the crawl. I'm probably one of the few that do. I like to challenge myself with it because I have progressed longer time each time I do it. And that also ultimately is going to help my core strength overall for a longer term duration. So I was definitely performing better when I got in that realm. I also did a lot of core strength because I did have another setback during that time and I had to have abdominal surgery of all things. So I was trying to set myself up well going into that, knowing that I was going to need recovery time and more setback for maybe about a month or two after that.
Very cool. Did you have any apprehension going from single bell skills to double bell skills?
Yes, kind of with my history of abdominal surgery, what was done in the past, as well as the low back, I was not sure if I was going to be strong enough or if my body was even going to let me handle the double bells.
But you've been
But
pleasantly surprised.
I've been pleasantly surprised, and I've now reached to a point where I feel like I'm indestructible. My
Knock on wood.
body, my body has taken this increased weight that I am able to handle, and I just do it with each workout 2 times a week, and I don't have any setbacks, no tweaks, no aches, just appropriate muscle ache from the workout, and nothing is hurting my back at this point. So I think I've deemed myself near the peak there, or at the peak, or just my back is fixed finally. So I definitely, it
And
feels like I feel different with that, being at that point. And as far as my posture goes, even most recently, like I'm standing without slouching and without having to think about it, straight. And that has never happened in my life at all.
yeah, it's phenomenal stuff. And I just think of, your days in that current state going to get medical assistance, and you were getting physical therapy, which is absolutely the right thing to do. But beyond that, getting into the fitness industry, if you weren't participating in a program that had such structure as it relates to the science behind the movements through Dr. Stuart McGill, following his recommendations, following functional movement screening protocols, following original strength, with the neural resets, following all these things that we follow, I just wonder where you'd be.
Right.
I just wonder. Obviously, the outcome would not be the same, and
No.
I don't think the outcome would be better. I think it would be way worse. And so having a system like this, and I know we're not done, but it's important to note, I mean, you're really feeling, I mean, it might be too confident at this point, but you're really feeling like superhuman. You're like, hey, I can't break. And this is someone who's had pretty major back issues in the past. And that's a credit to the system, but it's also a credit to your consistency. You know that, because it has taken time. This is not a 1 week thing. It's not a
Right.
1 month thing. I mean, we're talking a couple of years,
Right.
but it's a great investment because the happiness that you feel, the confidence you have, and the fact that you're not in pain and you're able to do things in life. I mean, there's nothing more important. So let's
Right.
go into the last little component of these two. We talked a little bit about performance, and then it transitions into peak performance. Where are you right now in this very moment with the milestones?
Like the number of milestone? 16.
Okay, so you're at 16 right now, this very moment. So you're really gearing yourself up for additional strength with that press, and there's a set load requirement. So it's going to take time to be able to press that. Then there's another percent body fat composition change or challenge, and then there's the snatch test. So all of those represent challenges. What's your mindset with those?
That I will do them. I will do them. Nothing is going to stop me now.
Exactly. Hey, that's the kind of mindset we're talking about with someone with a 20-minute crawl, right? That's awesome. So obviously, I think as great as your story is, Colleen, as great as the physiological change, getting out of pain, the posture, as great as all of that is, and it is an amazing story. What I'm most proud of as, a coach that's played a role in your transformation is I'm most proud of your mindset, of the fact that you're so ridiculously confident. And I just wonder how that comes across in the vitality and energy and everything that you exude when you're working with others and you're just around other people. I just wonder what that difference is. I wonder if you have more influence over them. I wonder if you have more positive, impact upon them. I wonder what the difference is. That because I can absolutely tell you it's night and day. And
It is.
and
Uh,
that is moving forward. So people might
right.
think that it's physiological, and it certainly is. Don't get me wrong, it's physiological as well. But the greatest change that we can make is personal growth. And that happens through our emotions. It happens through, what we're thinking and how we think about things and how we attack things, how we strategize, how we overcome issues, because our life is so full of negativity. It's so full of stress. It's so full of all the things in that can bring us down. And our resiliency, our strength, and our mindset, and all the things that go into that are so incredibly powerful to leading what we call the next step of this, Colleen, and you'll get into this, and you're already exhibiting behaviors, but it's leading an extraordinary life. You are exhibiting the next phase. You're not even there yet, and you're exhibiting those. Don't you feel like if I asked you, okay, Colleen, you know, even whether it's define extraordinary living or are you leading extraordinary life, what would you say to that? Like, what is extraordinary living?
I would say yes. Extraordinary living. I would say you have your health. You don't have pain, and you're overcoming, I guess, any like health obstacles or whatever kind of obstacles might be what else going on in one's life, if that makes any sense.
Absolutely. And, leading an extraordinary life is going to be defined differently for everybody, right? But certainly we know that being healthy is a really important part of that. Feeling strong is an important part of that. Having failures and overcoming things like that is a big part of that, right? No one's born with a perfect life, right? So,
Right.
so it has to do with fulfillment. It has to do with passion. It has to do with how you impact others. It's giving back. It's all that stuff. So, it's happiness. It's being okay with who you are and where you are and what you're
Yeah.
doing. You know what I'm saying? Not you're just trying to be your authentic self. And I believe that you are exhibiting all of that more so than if you would not have been in a system that really promotes that process.
Right. I mean, like I said, I needed the help, and I feel like that's good for everybody. I never really pictured myself doing all of this on my own or even knowing how or where to start.
Right. You were someone who wasn't even exercising, who was
No.
basically broken your back. I mean, we're not talking about this as an athletic, right? We're not putting athletes through this. I mean, you could, right? You put anybody through this, right? But, you're an example of someone who wasn't exercising, who didn't really have any experience with fitness, who had pain, who had back issues. You know what I'm saying? It's like if that could work for you, do you think it could work for others?
Yes, the whole mindset of being consistent and forcing yourself to do something that's hard. That isn't easy in itself. That is very hard.
True. Yeah, the whole process takes some discipline, doesn't it? Now,
You're right.
hard could be debated. When you say hard to me, what I don't think of intensity hard, I think of discipline. I think of personalized because
Right.
it's so much easier for us just to listen to the marketing and go do like a boot camp, right? It's so much more fun. Like I'm going to go to, XYZ and just kill myself. I was like, I mean, that's ridiculous, right? But when I have to personalize the process, you even mentioned it. You said, hey, I was so disappointed I couldn't even roll over. Well, you
Right.
probably at that point in time weren't going to be doing that on your own. You had to have someone who personalized the approach and said, hey, Colleen, you know what? This is really going to help you do this, this, and this. So let's do it. Right. I
Right.
mean, really. So hard to me means that we have to personalize the process, even though we might be a little stubborn in that we might have to realize that, hey, you know what? I'm human and there are things that I like to do, but there are also things that I need to do.
Right.
And so, sure, one of my personal pet peeves is that exercise needs to be enjoyable. You know what? Fine, you should enjoy the process. However, we're not, selling tickets to Circus Olay. Like, if you want this to be fun and enjoyable, like, go see a movie.
Right.
When you look at, hey, I got to go exercise, are you looking at it as fun and enjoyable? Maybe not. But as long as you're doing what you need to do, and because if you said to me, Corey, I want you to go do things that are fun and enjoyable for your exercise, well, guess what? I may not even do anything. Like I don't do that for fun. I do it to feel great. I do it to lead an extraordinary life, but it's part of the process that we have to go through. And
Right.
so, my only concern with always having to address it as, oh, it has to be fun and enjoyable, all this stuff, is that, well, what if it's not fun? Does that mean that someone's off the hook? It's like, oh no, this doesn't work for me. It's not fun. I'll just, yeah, it doesn't work for me. Sorry. It's like,
Right.
no, no, that's not good enough. That doesn't help you lead an extraordinary life if you just say, it's not for you. You don't enjoy it. So cool. So, sorry to get off on a tangent right there, but that is pretty much wrapping up. Move forward. That's the journey from really that current state all the way around to impacting others. And you guys hopefully can see through, listening to Colleen that it is a journey. I mean, this is an absolute journey that's going to take time. It takes effort, it takes relationships, it takes caring in both directions, right? A coach has to care about the client has to care about the coaches and the system and all this type of stuff. And so it's not easy. This is not an easy process. It's very personalized. It's very body friendly. We're moving the body the way the body's designed to move. We have deep logic on science. And ultimately, you are changing someone's life. And that's something that for me as a coach, I want all of us to lead a life that is very highly purposeful and we have a level of fulfillment that with our jobs makes us feel like we want to get up in the morning. I mean, that's really super cool. So, any last words, any thoughts, Colleen?
Extraordinary living. I mean, health is everything. So I have my health. I am battling another health issue on the side that I've had for a long time, but I think strength training has given me the mindset strength to actually conquer that now. So I did do something about a year ago that I thought was hard that I never did before. I did finally jump in and make a diet change in my life, and I've stuck with it. And I'm going to pertain that to the strength training and, the friends that I have for coaches that keep me in a positive, help to keep me in a positive mindset that if I can do this, then I can do that kind of thing. Um,
Absolutely.
I'm
Absolutely.
able to, I could go travel outside of this pandemic. I feel like I can sit for long periods of time now without my back aching me finally. So there's just things looking back that I couldn't do that I am doing again now. And it's great. It makes me happy. I'm in disbelief every day that I'm actually at this point, and I am grateful to everyone who has been in my life to help me with that.
Very cool. We are grateful for you, your attitude, your effort, and we're looking forward to you getting out of 16 on to 17, 18, and actually getting into the milestones of extraordinary living, even though you're really like living that life anyway, but to get you technically there. And I'll also kind of just share what you'll get when you do that. Check it out.
What you got there? Navy and green?
Oh yeah, that's what I'm talking
Nice.
about. That's what I'm talking about. Gotta get get ready for those higher level milestones. So, Colleen, thanks for joining me. Thank you for taking the time. Hope that was helpful for everybody to kind of see an applied example of all the different stages within your within the move forward infographic. It's the hero's journey, and that's a wrap. So, Colleen, I will see you soon.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.